Okay, so I'm going to start with the viburnum family, some of my favorite, when talking about shrubs that can handle full sun to part shade. These typically are shrubs that have multiple trunks that grow up from a base. And the viburnum family is super helpful for lots of different animal species, butterflies, bees. I just saw a beetle resting on one of the blossoms over here, but I don't see it now. He must have moved on. And so I thought that because the viburnums also have year-round interest, usually with a very interesting architecture as well as food and foliage to provide nesting areas for small birds. Um, they are my first point of interest. So this particular viburnum is an arrowwood, and when you buy some small shrubs, just FYI, if you don't know, they do come balled and burlapped. So they basically cut those roots into a clean ball, wrap them in burlap, and then additionally, some heavy cord. So when you plant these, what you want to do is dig the hole just a little bit larger than the root ball. They say twice the size. I don't tend to do that unless it's super compact soil. What I like to do is, especially if the soil is already well prepared, just do about 1/3 to 1/2 larger than the root ball, and then be sure and cut once the shrub is in the hole. Be sure and cut all of those cords or twine that's wrapped around the trunk so that it doesn't create strangulation, since the water and the nutrients move up and down the trunk. That's where sort of the quote unquote feeding apparatus are, moving liquids and nutrients up and down through the trunk. So if you create strangulation or alternately pile a bunch of mulch at the base of any shrub or tree, it makes it difficult for oxygen to move through. And I'm going to take a quick break here and show you just some small native bees that are pollinating. So they're not only helping to spread and pollinate these flowers, but they're also eating and feeding, getting nutrition. So again, that's the arrowleaf. This is the black haw viburnum, which has a much smaller leaf. So kind of a green, pale green leaf, still coming up from a stem or a base that is multi-branched. And I'm going to see here, they have several of these species. So these are great along a forested area, or if you have an area that's open lawn that you want to create a transition zone in, or maybe there's a high spot in the garden that you just want a little, in other words, maybe a little bit of height. So this is another one of my personal favorites. It's called Blue Muffin. They call it that because it has sort of a bluish flower, and you can see that it's just about to start to come into its bloom right now. So we're at the end of June, so by early to mid-July that viburnum will be flowering. This is a leatherleaf viburnum that has quite a broader leaf. It tends to do better in a little more shade than less. Also, some of these are susceptible to wind damage, especially up here in the Northeast. So you want to be mindful about that. So here, this is a variety called Cardinal Candy. And all of these plants that I'm showing you now get up to about 4 to 5 feet in height and about 3 to 5 feet in width. You could hear those red-winged blackbirds singing. So at this particular nursery that I'm at, they have left some areas here for marshland. So the red-winged blackbirds are making use of cattails that are growing in there, which is nice. And so then they have a series of small trees. A lot of you will recognize the Japanese maples. So this is the dissectum, which tends to be a slower grower. It is also, they tend to be a bit pricey. So this one, let me see if I can find a price on this. I don't know, it looks like it's not, I don't see a price at the moment. And then this is a PG hydrangea, which is a small white flowering hydrangea. Again, just a nice accent point in a garden. And although I would not necessarily call this buckeye a small tree, it gets 15 to 18 inches, feet tall, so about almost 20 feet tall. So depending on your yard size, and if you need a small area shaded, it's a good option. So I'm just looking through this nursery. This is the first time that I've been up here. It's absolutely beautiful. This is at Stratum Circle. And I'll be visiting different nurseries. Okay, so I am going to catch a price on this lace leaf. So yeah, so this is a $430 Japanese maple. This is the Bloodgood. And a little bit more reasonable. So we're kind of just strolling through. Here's the marshland. This sort of looks like an area that a lot of the nitrogen that they use to feed their plants drifts down into this this miniature watershed they've created. So as we get into larger trees, medium to large trees, of course the birches are wonderful to look at. Just be careful of the varieties that you get. You want to be sure and make sure that they are disease-resistant varieties. And it looks like they have, these are cherries and crab apples, red buds, all what they call medium-sized trees, so getting up in the 20 to 30 foot size trees. And then looks like now they have mature trees. Oh, and here's some of the PG hydrangeas that are coming into bloom. Those look lovely. So those are nice with knockout roses planted around them, or maybe some small ornamental grasses. Okay, so that's our mini tour on viburnums. I intentionally skipped over the rhododendrons and azaleas for the time being and specifically focused on shrubs that do well at those borderland areas between shady, more protected parts of your yard and sunny, open areas of your yard. So kind of edge growers, and then here are all the rhododendrons and azaleas that you're all so familiar with. Okay, now I'm going to stop and we're going to go over to the perennial section.